This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Hello and welcome to the Unstoppable Indians. Every week we take a journey into the life of an outstanding Indian, a person whose talent, acumen or moral example is transforming India. The best, the finest from every field join me, Manvi Dhillon, on this show to share their life story, their journey to success, some of the knocks along the way, what made them get up and keep going, what makes them an unstoppable Indian. My guest today is YV Deveshwar, Chairman of ITC. Mr. Deveshwar, thank you very much for joining me on the Unstoppable Indians. You know, usually when I'm preparing for an interview, I'm crunching the numbers and looking at the margins and the profitability, but I know in the case of ITC, it's the triple bottom line that I must absorb, I must understand and must digest, right?
Yeah, thank you for actually looking at ITC in that perspective. Very few people look at companies in that manner. And I agree with you that we have three dimensions that we look at very closely, and we believe that together constitutes performance. It is not that every company does not create all these three types of impact, but very few actually disclose the other two impacts, the ecological and the social impact. So we've chosen to do this because we believe that it is important for our company to subserve society and through that means create shareholder value.
You know, you are so firm in your objective of marrying profit with social objectives for ITC. Have you ever questioned that conviction or is it just unwavering?
See, basically, in the long run, the objectives of society and the purpose of society and objectives of business converge. It is unlikely that business can prosper if the society doesn't prosper.
But you know, it's difficult for business to recognize and keep that on the radar all the time.
No, this is the issue. It is the issue of it is in the long run. And some people say in the long run, all of us are dead. So the issue is how do we begin to reward companies for their long-term orientation in the short run? And in short, how to create this market for good corporate conduct. I think that is a challenge of our society because you know that, in India particularly, we haven't gotten rid of poverty even after so many years of independence. And now, the threat of global warming is going to exacerbate this problem of poverty. And without mobilizing the corporate sector, without mobilizing business, I do not think any single organ of society on its own, even if it is government, can actually resolve these huge challenges our society faces.
You know, I want to take a kind of step back and ask you this. Your managers at ITC have to perform a dual function. They're looking at the profit motive as well, and they know that they must view themselves as an engine of growth. Do you find that sometimes that responsibility gets onerous, too much of a responsibility on your managers?
Actually, we are trying to build a corporation of the future. So it is a challenging task because you have to compete on the financial dimension because our financial markets do not reward our other two dimensions. And therefore, it is possible. It is not possible for us to not acknowledge the requirement of the shareholder in the next quarter. So therefore, it is not for every company as of now to embark on a more challenging task of looking after the short-term profit and also taking care of the medium and long term, not only for the company, but also making a positive contribution to societal assets.
You know, we've talked about ITC and how it has a social conscience. But tell me, in the Indian business peer group, do you find yourselves a rarity?
Actually, the thing is this, that ever since liberalization took place, the first challenge that everybody was faced with was how to be globally competitive. Because if you're not competitive on the financial dimension, you can be wiped out. Only when you have the requisite vitality to be able to take care of the short run, can you think of the long run. Anybody, if you're flying in the aircraft, they advise you when the oxygen masks drop, first take care of yourself. And once you are comfortable, then look after somebody else. So we can't expect companies that are struggling to survive in the short run to be taking such a long-term view. But if we could incentivize, if you could find mechanisms and create a new paradigm of measurement, and if we get the civil society to exercise its power as a consumer in favor of those companies that not only create return for the shareholder, but also create assets, valuable assets, social and natural capital for society, that they would prefer their products and services, then everybody would be compelled to do that. I think that is a big challenge before our societies. How do you create a market for corporate social responsibility?
Recognize that, incentivize that, reward that, and then perhaps you will find more in the fold. But Yogi Deveshwar and sustainable development have become almost synonymous terms. Is there any particular project, a small initiative, a large initiative that gives you personally great satisfaction?
Actually, we've got two kinds of sort of corporate social responsibility initiatives. There are a couple that we try to integrate our contribution to society within the business model itself. And then we have mandated all our units to create sustainable livelihoods in the command areas of their operations. And we've been at it for a while. But what gives me really a great source of satisfaction is that we are not only a domestic exemplar, we are a global exemplar. We are a company that is water positive, that is carbon positive, and that's nearly zero solid waste disposal company. When you say water positive, we generate thrice the amount of water that we consume, and we sequester twice the carbon than we emit from our operations, even though we are a paper business. And then we recycle most of our solid waste. And more than that, nearly 5 million people in India derive their livelihood from the initiatives that we have taken in our different businesses. That gives me a source of satisfaction. There isn't, to my knowledge, another company in the world of our size and our diversity that has these standards of environmental sustainability and also contributes to creating livelihoods in such large numbers. That gives me the satisfaction.
And that's why ITC finds itself a Harvard Business School case study as well. But I want to talk about your acceptance in rural India. And there are so many Indian companies that are so wary of rural India, of consolidating their presence in rural India. Tell me, was there any challenge in building that trust, in making that bridge when you first started on this journey, like Each-Opal?
The challenge is very large because, our rural communities are fragmented and widely dispersed. 87% of villages have population density of fewer than 2,000 people. So most companies that go into rural India with the objective of selling their wares, they find that the cost of access to consumers there is always greater than the benefit that they can derive from it. So therefore, people only confine themselves with concentrated markets. The best marketeers that I know confine themselves to 100,000 villages and not the 640,000 villages that Indian rural markets have. So it was the core reason for success is to be able to create value proposition that rural communities would actually accept readily. And we had to actually research and find out what their real needs were. We actually invited them to co-create the value proposition. And we were not the ones to go and go there with the objective of taking a larger share of their already very slim wallet. Our objective was to actually empower them, build their capacity, increase their ability to earn larger incomes, get a fatter wallet, and then yes, of course, go for a larger share of a fatter wallet. So grow the size of the cake, grow the size of the opportunity, rather than merely taking a share in it. I think this particular approach got us acceptance.